Now, this is the kind of story I happen to love to see in terms of the independent film world, filmmaking in general. Demon Squad was a 2019 low-budget, micro-budget, really, movie from Alabama. If you want to call it anything, it's basically a southern-fried, neo-noir, urban fantasy movie. Think like a laid-back cousin to something like Supernatural or Grimm, but as a one-off movie. It was budgeted like an early 2000 YouTube show with FX from a Spirit Halloween clearance sale. Your setup is got a guy named Nick Moon. He's a private detective slash monster hunter who uses magic and magical tech to investigate for and against supernatural world. You know, it's got a lot of cool world building, monsters, psychics, very low budget, lots of handmade heart to it. Makes up an ambition and a sense of fun what it's held back by in budget and experience. And was not necessarily something that it ever was going to or ever did really like blow up across the indie scene or become like a sensation or whatever. Now, the reason that people really know about this movie is because it popped up as part of one of the more recent incarnations of Mystery Science Theater 3000 as one of the films that was being riffed. And part of what I always liked about both the original KTMA and Comedy Central era Mystery Science Theater and the Netflix and Gizmoplex crowdfunded era of Mystery Science Theater, the Joel eras of Mystery Science Theater. And I'm not like a guy who gets into the Mike versus Joel thing on that show, and this is not what this review episode will be about. In terms of that, I enjoy a whole way across the whole spectrum of that. I'm looking forward to the Riff Tracks revival, etc. I hope that we're not done with what Joel's new team was doing as well. Either way, is that those eras specifically, you could always get a sense that there was a sense of kindred spirit, especially in that later Gizmoplex era. The types of people that were working on making a show like that, and the sort of people that make a movie like this specifically, that sort of like a handmade, friends putting on a show spirit of B-movie making. Well, they were sincerely riffing on that this was a goofy, silly little movie. That if you weren't making a show like Mystery Science Theater, making fun of this movie, you could see yourself being the kind of person that's also making this movie. These are, you know, spirits in kind. And that really did carry through, and it wasn't a huge surprise that the fans of MST3K very quickly also became, a big segment of them, fans of Demon Squad. And this relatively obscure small movie got itself a following. The makers of Demon Squad very enthusiastically jumped in to say, hey, we are so glad Mystery Science Theater caught on with our movie. There was some back and forth there. And they have been able to crowdfund themselves a sequel. And I just think that is so cool. That is, for me, the ideal case scenario of how the fandom around the budget B filmmaking scene interaction with stuff like Mystery Science Theater, like Riff Tracks, like YouTube B-movie appreciation communities should be. Even when we are mutually riffing back and forth together on quote-unquote bad movies, that there is a communal sense of spirit with that. And I think that's just terrific. The idea of, and this is not just because, yes, if you can't tell, making a budget monster movie with your friends, Demon Squad, both Demon Squad and now its sequel, Demon Squad Tooth and Claw, are the essence of a very particular sort of movie that feels of a type that not only have I worked with, like this is a world that I know very, very personally. And for me personally, making a movie like this, having it show up as part of Mystery Science Theater, Riff Tracks, a series like that, blowing up and, you know, seeing your career poof like that, sounds like a dream come true to a lot of people I know, myself included, and it is so cool to see it actually happen for someone. So given the opportunity to get a look at and review this new movie, which is now out on a couple streaming services and for sale, you can watch this movie, you can get your hands on this movie, so absolutely I was going to check this out. Not just because I like the backstory, I do like the backstory, but also because I thought the first one was a lot of fun, and hey, surprise, I think this one is fun too. And I'm happy for these folks, and it's practically a bonus that the movies are fun, but the movies are fun. This is not a genre or a version of the genre for everyone. But, you know, go look up the trailer, look at the footage being shown during this review. You will know right away whether or not this sort of thing is your bag. And if it is, I think you'll enjoy it anyway. In this new one, Nick Moon is back. Nick Moon returns. In this installment, they're getting wrapped up in a conspiracy involving a seemingly but not maybe rise in monster attacks, a gentrification project, werewolf sightings, and a psychic fortune teller. Very similar to the first movie. Bigger, but not too much bigger. More polished, but not too much more polished. It still has that fun, light community theater vibe to the acting, the performances, the casting, the came with the software level of special effects, the friend that's letting you shoot in their work and or the crew's own living room use of sets, repurposed Halloween store props, etc. And that's why it's awesome. Like I said, if I had to describe these, encapsulate what is Demon Squad for a friend, I said, yeah, it's a southern neo-noir urban fantasy, supernatural or grim. Do people even remember Grimm? I know everyone remembers Supernatural because it was on for like 1,000 years. Is Grimm still a show that people remember? I don't think I even watched that much of Grimm, but I remember it being around, but like budgeted like early YouTube. The thing is, you can tell the filmmakers enjoy making this. You can see that they're having fun with their committed world building, that there's a lot of dialogue in this sort of budget filmmaking where they're just describing the bigger world that they're imagining around themselves. They're playing around with the tropes of the urban fantasy horror genre. You know, that you're kind of watching a hangout with friends repurposed into a movie with light special effects. This is a terminology that I'm borrowing from Lloyd Kaufman, underwritten by James Gunn's book about the making of the early Troma movies, where, you know, if you can see the seams of the project through the location shootings and the prop-looking props, it feels like you're part of the production, and it ends up producing the same infectious, watching some friends put on a show energy. The kind of thing that if you're a fan of this, you get from a good live stream tabletop show, or, like I said, a well-staged local theater production. And I really enjoyed this. I had a lot of fun with it. If you like the first Demon Squad, you will probably like the second Demon Squad. The effects and there's some very surprisingly, given what you can tell is clearly what they had to work with, some surprisingly good makeup creature effects in it. They are actually looking to say something about the world around them. Get a real sense of atmosphere. There are a lot of movies that take place in the modern American South and either layer on too much atmosphere or not enough atmosphere, or or someone else's fake idea of what that community, that world feels like. You know, you get a real sense of, and this feels cliche and feels like it should be obvious, you get a real sense of atmosphere and area of this place because they really are just kind of shooting outdoors where they are. It adds something to it. You know, you really feel like you are hanging around with just a bunch of buddies who made a show. Even though there are more YouTubers and independent filmmakers with more access to smaller cameras, it is now so easy to make things look more slick that you see less and less authentic feeling budget filmmaking like this now. And I just had a lot of fun watching this. I would call this a solid 7 out of 10 fun watch experience. And I would watch so many more movies made by these guys. I really did. I really dug it, and it is just such a cool thing that, you know, someone's basically overlooked, you know, budget genre project. An original movie an original story gets picked up to be, you know, goofed on as a Mystery Science Theater movie and becomes a thing years later, and then they get to make their sequel. How fucking cool is that? Awesome.